Hello again, everyone. Hope you are well on this August 20th. And the month just keeps marching on by us, isn't it? It's amazing how time flies. The train wreck that we have been witnessing over the last 3.5+ years will pale in comparison compared to 2025 if the cackling hen gets in there. And I just have a feeling she will. I really do. I don't like saying that, but that's what I'm feeling. And even if Trump gets in there, the train wreck it might take a while to turn it around a little bit. So we're still going to see shenanigans. So we need to keep preparing for that. I'm going to talk about several different things. I'm going to talk about a word about the DNC and where it's located. Also, a conversation I had with my father over this weekend and some wisdom he threw down. And then also up to 1 million jobs lost. I'll explain. Up to 1 million jobs, y'all. Employment is we're on the brink, I believe we're on the brink of an employment fiasco, a nightmare going into 2025, throughout 2025. Okay. I have a terrific passage that I will share with you towards the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. Decay and decline as well, and what I'm witnessing out there, and I drive a lot. I cover several counties in North Georgia, poor counties, well-to-do places, in between that. And what I've witnessed over the years is a steady decline in almost every single case, even in the well-to-do, even in the so-called safe or nice areas, and it's really something to see. It happens kind of slow. Sometimes it's fast in certain areas, but over time it's hard to notice, but it's there, and that's speeding up as far as just the decline in infrastructure, the way houses look, and they're not being kept up. Some better than others, of course. There are neighborhoods we go in that the houses, the properties are not well kept at all. And then every now and then you'll see one in between that is kept up very nice. Even in, like I said, the nice areas, I see a decay. And when you widen that out, I see a decline in our nation as far as our infrastructure. It's institutions, from education to government to business, employment, just the way things look, unless it's just been built brand new, but then it fades quick, doesn't it? It fades quicker. Even like complexes and these shopping centers and all, they look really kind of shiny right away, but then within 5 to 10 years, they look like they're 30, 35 years old, and that didn't seem to be the case before. They build new roads or repave roads now, and within months, they're tore up and just crumbling and falling apart. It seems like they used to last a lot longer, you know? Just some things I noticed out there. The Democrat National Convention held in Chicago, of all places. It's a little ironic that they're holding it there, but yesterday, day one of the convention. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't watched a lot of it. I just can't do it, y'all. I can't do it. I had good intentions, but I'm busy too. But I just can't. I can't. Little bits, snips. I've been watching some, but on day one in Chicago, there were 8 people shot, 3 deaths. That's just day one. This past weekend in Chicago, 26 shootings, y'all. 26 shootings, 30 victims, 5 dead. Now, I'd like to know how many arrests were made. How many arrests were made? And are they still in jail? I'd like to know that. They didn't mention that. and we never will know. And that's part of the decline and decay. And I was thinking about it today, and it's a lot of reasons. We have a mental health crisis in this country, big time, big time. But deeper than that, go back even further than that, we've pulled away from God in so many ways, out of the schools, the public square, you name it, right? I mean, overall, the family unit is not what it used to be. You remember back when we grew up, many of us, when we grew up, and some now, but not as much. The family unit, it was strong. There was discipline. There was just, you were raised right. You know, even if it wasn't, even if you were raised by a single parent or a mixed, you know, a blended family, it was still strong. You still had those values. You know, even if you weren't religious, even if you weren't Christian, you were raised with some morals. By and large, for the most part, I know. And it was just strong. And it's like that is just falling apart. And that affects everything. It really does. Just my thoughts. I had a conversation with my father this past weekend, Sunday evening, and the man is 87 years old. He's still kicking. He's declining physically and having issues physically. His mind is sharper than ever. It's as sharp as has ever been. And it's kind of interesting to talk to him. And I asked him, I said, did you think you would ever live long enough to see the way things are turning out and the things that we see now out there in society and the corruption and the government? You know, we kind of talked about a wide range of things that are going on in the world, not just the United States, but just overall. And I said, did you ever think you would live long enough to see this, the shape things are in? He says, no, I really didn't. I really didn't think I would live this long, and it's quite something to see. He said, it baffles me. Some days I'm not surprised anymore by what I see and what I hear. However, it's sad. And then he said, this is a good point. He said, and not just me, but my parents, your grandparents, my mom and dad, if I were to tell them, if I were to tell them what's going on these days, from the Olympics fiasco to just society, politics, if I were to tell them that, they would truly not believe me. They would not believe what is going on and what we see on a daily basis. They just wouldn't. They wouldn't accept it. That's what he said. And I thought that was interesting. He agreed that we are in a super decline. We're in a spiritual battle. He agreed there, and we have seen a moral decay, decline of the United States. Not just the United States. That goes for Canada, Europe. He's baffled that the UK now is going to lock people up for making little, opinionated Facebook posts. That's beyond his. He just can't fathom it. I mean, he sees it. He knows what's going on, but it's just something. He's baffled, and he agrees that it is part. I believe he agrees it's part of spiritual warfare. It's very spiritual what's going on. And I think he sees that too. But anyway, it's interesting. If you have a chance, if you have parents or grandparents that are living and y'all communicate, and it's interesting to get their take. It's interesting to get their get a little bit of their wisdom and their opinions. We can always learn something. The feds face up to a million United States jobs lost. Now, jobs numbers have come out, and like the former Home Depot CEO said, he said that they've got to get, what did he say? Bob Nardelli, he said, it's about time the government got honest. Good luck with that, mister. He said the jobs data is woefully overstated rather. The labor market is weaker than we realize. Like, for instance, Stellantis, the automaker, they make Dodge, Jeep, the Cooper, the Mini Coopers, all those little, I forget the other name brand. But anyway, Dodge, Jeep, Chrysler. They've cut 2,500 jobs just here recently. They were ranked 11th as far as job creation under this administration. He pointed that out. He said, that is an example of being the data woefully overstated. They need to be honest about it. Well, they're not. We know that's not going to happen. But J.P. Morgan and Chase forecasters see a decline up to between 500,000 to 1 million jobs they've got to adjust down. So they overinflated the jobs numbers, which we're not surprised at that. The final numbers are due out early 2025, and that's what made me start thinking that I think we're in for some tough times from now through 2025 on many levels. You know, when you look at 2025, it's a little scary in several ways. Political, our systems, our institutions, crime, society, the way we treat each other, it's horrendous. And employment, keep your day job, day gig, unless, you know, it is so bad and you're looking for something else. By all means, look for something else. I think we're on the brink of a disaster as far as jobs are concerned going into 2025. I really do. It's a train wreck. What can we do individually as a family? You know, if you're retired or you have, may not be as big of a deal as far as jobs are concerned, but if you're still working or you're retired and you know those around you are working, or your grandchildren or children are working, you know, you can, advise them, but, keep your day gig, keep your day job. I hear a lot of people quit and then they go, I'm going to look for something else. I'm going to quit. That's not the right order. You don't do that. You look for something else while you're working and you secure employment, and then you put your 2 weeks notice in. Now, they may not accept your 2 weeks notice. That's fine. But you go ahead and put it in and offer that. Okay, this is the right thing to do. This is the way I was raised too, but we need to, as individuals, as far as employment is concerned, number one, do your job. Do your job. Now, don't feel like you got to do this work every weekend, work overtime all the time, just run yourself ragged, stress yourself out, burn yourself out. Don't do that. Have your boundaries within reason. Keep quiet about personal information, political. Don't get caught up in the gossip. You're there to do a job. Now, you're going to make some acquaintances that might be friends and all, but you really got to be careful, y'all. Be so careful about that. It's so tempting, I know, jump in on the gossip. What's going on with that person, or to pile on when somebody's being criticized. Especially the supervisor. Do not, whether it's a supervisor or a coworker, don't pile in on something like that. You just bear down and do your work. It will get back to that person. I guarantee you it will get back to that person. Bear down and do your work. You're a high performer. Don't be afraid to ask for a raise. If it's been a while since you had one, or you're overdue for one, you can ask that in a respectful way, okay? Don't be afraid to do that. Now, if you get the annual raises or whatever, you get those. Be clear about the amount and commensurate to your performance. Make sure you're not getting shortchanged there. Of course. Communicate with your supervisor. Talk to your supervisor. I don't care if they're the biggest jerk in the world, or if they're the biggest jerk in the world, you're probably looking for something else anyway. But if they're not your favorite person, that's okay. That's all right. I've worked for many supervisors. I wouldn't want to hang with them later on, after work. I mean, I'm not going to be friends with them. But communicate with them, even if it's some small talk, or, and if you haven't had a review in a while, or if you're kind of in the dark about your performance, you're just plodding along and you're doing your work, and there's no feedback or anything like that, no reinforcement, ask for it every now and then. At least say, hey, just want to meet with you for a few minutes. How are things? Is there any feedback you have for me? What can I do that's better? Just want to get your feedback. Nothing wrong with doing that. I think we should be doing that. If they're not, on a regular basis, quarterly or whatever, not giving us feedback. So please do that as well. Also, people or for yourselves or your children, grandchildren, I think going into 2025, jobs, especially young people, I try to steer them, if they're not going to college for something specific that's going to get them work, look at the trades, your HVAC, electrician, welding, construction-related things, jobs, industries, healthcare, even teaching, something that lends itself to getting a job, right? Electricians, landscape people, project management, that kind of stuff, anything you can get a certification in, even if it's welding. There are jobs out there you get today doing that, all right? These are just things I'm passing along, all right? As far as other things individually, let's watch our spending, pay down what debt we can as we're going into a new, before you know it, we're going into a new year, right? So let's do what we can to circle our own wagons, right? All right. We're living in uncertain times. I'm going to go to a passage. It is a good one. All right. Find it here. Staying in Old Testament. Joel, this was the Bible app verse of the day. I don't always read the Bible app verse of the day, but this was a good one, and it was speaking to me, especially for some reason in these times right now. This is in Joel, the book of Joel, chapter 20. No, Joel chapter 2, starting with verse 12. Yet even now, declares the Lord, return to me with all your heart, and with fasting, weeping, and mourning, and rend your heart and not your garments. Now return to the Lord your God, for he is gracious, compassionate, slow to anger, abounding in love and kindness, and relenting of evil. Return, the theme I just keep hearing, return to me. I wish this country could return to him. I know many in our country are, many on this channel. Even if you're not, listen, stay with it, return to me with all your heart, fasting, weeping, and mourning. So many, and it also says, I believe it's in Matthew, the love of many will grow cold. And some of the footage I'm seeing of these protests outside the DNC and other places, the anti-Israel protesters, the way they're conducting themselves and the way they look, and they look deformed. They look like dang walkers from the Walking Dead, and they're screaming and yelling, and they sound like just some demon from hell. I don't know what's happened to these. I was watching some footage yesterday, and I'm like, what happened to these people? What happened to them? Where did it go wrong? It's just sad. It's just sad. It really is. It's the love of many will grow cold, and many pastors, many of the elect will be. They're under a delusion. They will be deceived. Many are right now. Let's guard ourselves, our heart. Let's stay grounded in the Word. Stay close to Jesus. That's the key, of course. Always come back to that. Stay close to Jesus. Let's be careful out there. Share your thoughts. God bless you. I'll see you soon.